What's up, guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Cello the Fashion Fairy. If you're stopping by for the first time, you're welcome. Please subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, I love you for coming back. If you want to learn how I made this corset top for plus size, definitely keep watching. See you in my tutorial. Hey soul fairies, and welcome to class. So if you've not watched a tutorial on how I made this pattern, kindly go back, watch, and join us in class. Okay, essentially I'm just trying to determine the amount of fabric I'll be needing for this. I like to work with smaller fabrics so that it makes it easy to cut. So this is what I'll be needing for now, and I'll go ahead and place my patterns on this and cut it out. So while placing my patterns, I have this in mind that I'll be adding allowances. So as you can see, I'm not placing them closer to each other, bearing in mind that I have to add ½ inch for joining, and then by the sides I have to add 1 inch by the side. The allowances are totally up to you. It's not a standard, but the smaller the allowances, the better. You don't need this to be bulky. So I've gone ahead to cut out my patterns, and for the cups I decided to use a contrasting fabric. So this is the upper part of the cup. Remember, this is a 3-part cup, so this is the upper part of the cup, and I decided to still stick to the fabric, but the other part of the cups I decided to use a contrasting fabric so that I'll kind of add some flavor to this. So guys, it's totally up to you to use whatever fabric you deem fit. You can even go ahead and use plain fabric at this point. Okay, so I've added all my sewing allowances, and it's good to also mention that you should notch. Yes, notching saves your life, especially when it comes to corsets. So I've gone ahead to cut, and also I added fusible interfacing at this point, and also my wording to the cups as well. So the next step is to create bias strips that you'll be using to design this, and it will act also as your boning channels as well. So I've gone ahead to attach my pieces off camera because I didn't want this to be too long, and this is what I have so far. So these are the bias strips, and we'll be using it to design this. So the style lines are totally up to you, but I decided to go with this, and you can add more or less as you so desire. So now I'm going to be drawing in the lines, and this will guide me when I want to sew the boning channels on my fabric. So essentially I marked 1 inch at this point. That's the sewing allowance I added away from it, but eventually I decided to make it 1.5, and on the bottom I marked 2.5 inches, as you can see, and then I drew a straight line to meet my 1 inch mark, which eventually became 1.5 because I felt it was too close to my sewing allowance. So I drew a straight line, and I'll be using this as guide to attach my bias strip and form my boning channels. So just a quick one to show you how I am adding this. So I'm using this as a guide, the middle point, and I'll just place this on top. And yeah, for your information, the bias strip, the width is 1.5 inches. So that's how big or how wide I cut it, so I will be able to walk around it. So essentially, if you sew the first line, you're going to fold it in, and you're going to sew it down once more, and then run a line on the other side. I mean, there are 1,000 ways to attach your boning channels, but I found this to be my best yet. So this was how I created this, and I also went ahead to create more boning channels. So essentially you have to cut a bias strip of 1.5 inches so that it helps you walk around it and fold it in easier. So at this point my thread decided to cut, so I decided to open up the seams as well, and then I added more boning channels to this. Remember, you can make it as much and as little as you want it to be. Okay, So this is what we have so far, and I'll just go ahead and attach the rest off camera. So this is my boning, right? And I'm using Regidin boning for this. So while using it, you need to secure the edges because it's quite it can poke you. So I'm going to be using paper tape to make sure I secure the ends. I'm going to straighten it a bit and then use my paper tape to seal both ends. You can also bond this with your candle. So taking your time, you're going to be passing the boning through all the boning channels that you have created for this design. Remember to try to straighten your bonings a little bit before you, or rather boning a little bit before you start adding them, so that it is not so curvy. So take your time in doing this, guys. And for the cup, I decided to do a bit of cage art here. So bust caging. So what I did was I measured, and I also didn't bother to straighten it up because I needed it to be a bit curved. So open up your cup, and then we're going to sew this down. So just take your time in doing this and make sure it sits in the middle, and we're just going to place this underneath our sewing machine and make sure it's catching the boning as you're sewing it. So essentially this is going to make it cup a little bit more. I'm going to do a whole video on how to do a bust caging for your corsets. You know, if you have a big bust, it's actually very hard to see already made cups, so this helps to give it a little bit of structure. So you're going to see the difference between this and the other one that I've not added. You can see that it's a bit more curved, and just look at the other one, you can already tell the difference. So it's a bit more curved, it gives it a bit more structure, so to speak. This is what the two look like, and you can already tell that one looks actually better. So I'm just going to do this on the other cup as well, and I'm going to do this quickly so that's how we can go ahead. I already did that, so I'm going to add the other side of the cup, the third part of the cup, and I'm just going to take my time in doing this. Remember to notch. It's easier to put all these pieces together when you've notched, because at the end of the day we'll just be putting notches, matching notches essentially. So we're going to be doing the same thing that we did for the other one, and here I decided to do this to sew it down as well, but it's totally optional. You mustn't do this. It doesn't add or remove anything. It's just that I wanted that style line to be showing on the cup. So I decided to sew it down and cut off all your excesses. We really don't want to have excess fabric lying in there, you know. So I like to cut off all the allowances, unnecessary allowances. So, and I'm also notching it to make sure it sits pretty. So this is what we have so far, and I already went ahead to attach one cup. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I did this. So the key or the trick is to pin it, match it first, match the seam lines first, like so, and then you're going to pin from that angle to the other side, and you're going to flip it over and also pin. So pinning helps, guys. It really does help. So pin this all the way up, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to also pin the other side as well. You can take all the time you need to do this. The only thing is to get it right. So attaching this off camera to save time, and I already did that. So this is what it looks like. I already went ahead to add the back to this as well, and I also added the boning channel to the back as well. So for the cups, we're going to go in with our scissors and notch the cup area. This helps to make it relax. Essentially, if you're sewing anything that is curved, you would need to notch in order to make that area relax well. So I'm just going in with my scissors to notch the whole area to ease it up a bit. So be careful when you're doing this, guys, because you don't want to cut your fabric in the process. So I'm going to go in with my scissors, my sharp scissors, to cut off all excesses at this point. This will help your cup to lay better when you wear it. Okay, so now that we're done, we're just going to move on to the next step. And the next step is for us to be adding our loops and turning this with lining. So I've already gone ahead to do the lining piece of camera. So as you can see, everything is properly aligned. So if you get this right, it should be the same size with your lining. And I'm going to iron those parts open so that it sits better on my body. So for the loops, I'm going to be using my bias tape, which I've already sewn. I just made it a bit smaller by sewing on top of it. So measuring 2 inches for each by loop, I'm just going to go ahead and flip this and create more 2-inch loops, and I'll just use my scissors to make this. So just cut this into pieces, as many as you need. So I've gone ahead to do this, and I have in fact I even had more than I needed. So the trick at this point is to place this like so, facing your fabric, so your top. But essentially you have to remember you have 1/2 inch on top to turn the lining. So I'm going to place the first one there, and I'm going to place the lower one as well, 2 inches above, and I'm just going to fill in those parts. It's easier like that. So I'll rush and do this off camera, and then I'll come back. So for our strap, we're going to determine the length of our strap. So if you have your pattern paper, the pattern paper you used in doing this, you can just go ahead and measure it. But I don't know, my pattern paper got lost in transit, so I'm doing this manually. So for the back, remember we went down by 1/2 inch, 1 inch at the center back. So I'm just trying to measure to determine where I want the strap to be sitting. So I measured from that point 4.5 inches, and it fell right on top of my dart area, the dart that I took from the back. So measuring what I have there, I had 8 inches on the back, and the front I had 7 inches. So essentially I have about 15 inches of strap. So I've gone ahead to cut this off camera as well, and I've attached it facing the fabric, the top. So I'm just measuring this to show you that it's 15 inches. I didn't bother to add any sewing allowance to this because I wanted it to be very firm. So I cut a width of 4.5 inches, and I folded it, turned it, and up inside out, and I placed it. So this is me making sure the straps are properly aligned, that they are sitting at the same place, and they are. So the width of this is totally up to you, not really up to you, up to your chest measurement. So if you're a plus size, you have to go with 6 inches. On folders about 12 inches apart, but for me I went with 10 inches apart. So the bigger you are, the more the distance. So I've already gone ahead to do the loops of camera, like I said, and I'm just going to attach this after I've attached the strap to the back as well. But I'm going to show you all that, and I'm going to show you how I turn this. So I lost some video at this point, and when I realized I had to come back to show you guys how I attached the strap to the back. So essentially I did this, flipped it over, and then placed it right there. I made a hole right there, and I placed it inside, flipped it inside out, and then made a stitch to attach the strap to the back area. So make sure you align it properly. I had to do this twice because I found out the thing turned as I was doing this. So you have to make sure it aligns properly. So I've gone ahead to attach the back strap and I've sealed this completely. I just left a bit about 5 inches right there so that I'll be able to bring this out, after which I'll make a stitch on top to seal it completely. So for this, I'm going to go in with my scissors and I'm going to notch this area completely all the way to the other side, because I really want this thing to be as flat as possible. So go in, notch, and if possible, cut off the the excesses that you really don't need. So this is what we have so far, and this is the other side, and you can see that all the seams are open. This is how you want it to be. So I've gone ahead to do all the needful, and voila, you can see that our top corset top is ready, and you can see that the inside is so sleek and so neat. So let's see how this looks on me, shall we? I also went ahead to also put a seam there to make it flat, to make it look kinky, to make it look beautiful, you know what I mean. So let's see. Voila, so this is how it looks on me, and this is a video showing you how it looks on me. So you can see that the cup is not so revealing. It's modest. So I'll do well to adjust it however you want. You can see it fits like a glove. The straps are sitting beautifully, they are not falling off. Because I didn't add any sewing allowance. You can see the back. I'm rocking this. Are you going to make this? If you're going to make it, kindly do and tag me on Instagram. Thank you for watching. Bye.